Hey, good afternoon, Darlene. How are you?
Good afternoon, Dr. Mike. I'm doing great. Greetings from Chi-Town.
All right. So let me start out by saying that today in the tri-state area in New York, New Jersey, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and Delaware, the tri-state area, it's 79 degrees right now. And they say by 2 o'clock it'll be in the 90s. And we're still in the spring here. So Dr. Dar, how's the weather in Chicago?
We are at 81 at 11 a.m. in the morning. So I got my sunglasses on. And yes, I am in Chicago, and I have this Brooklyn shirt on because Jude, my husband, is from Brooklyn, New York.
Okay. And by the way, since you mentioned Jude, and I was going to certainly do this, but nothing but respect to your husband and nothing but respect to my wife, Cynthia. And I really appreciate them allowing us to do these fireside chats in the winter and the poolside chats in the summer. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to welcome you to Michael and Darlene's poolside chat. We're broadcasting indoors today, however. I guess because of the heat, it's just too hot to be outside.
Pool is right over there.
Right, you're right. So I want to Darlene, I want to start out by asking you a question, and it's personal because people are very sensitive. But this question is related to COVID-19. So my question to you is: have you been vaccinated? If you don't mind me asking.
Because the pool is right there, and it is 81 degrees. Let me just take a sip.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Oh, so yes, I have been vaccinated. I got the Pfizer vaccination in March.
Okay, and so you're fully vaccinated, and I find it fascinating that people are being paid to get vaccinated. And
I know.
What is the world coming to? I mean, would you accept tickets to a basketball game, or would you do anything like that just to get vaccinated?
Yes.
So,
the lottery.
Yeah.
States have initiated the lotteries.
Yeah, and so it's almost like, and so that is psychological for some people. So let's just say, for example, African Americans. It's almost as if you're saying, take this vaccination and don't worry about the results. So people are already concerned with taking the vaccination anyway. And then you turn around and want to force it on people. It makes people really think. And so, and then Dr. Darlene, listen to this. This is so important I mention this because the CDC has turned around and said that people who are fully vaccinated, you and I, your husband, my wife, that we can actually be in the public without our masks. In certain places in Delaware, they lifted the restrictions yesterday to be able to have to wear the mask indoors in certain situations. Now, I find that a little problem simply because, think about it, how do you know who's vaccinated and who's not?
You don't know who's vaccinated or who's not. So you have to, for me, I have to be my own health manager.
Okay.
I determine for myself when I'm wearing a mask, when I'm not. When I'm in a public place, I am fully vaccinated. I am wearing a mask because you're right. You don't know who has been vaccinated or not. And so I think it's an individual choice. You have to manage your own health. You take the recommendations from CDC or Dr. Fauci or whomever, but it really comes down to your decisions about your own health.
So what would you tell any family members or friends that you know that has not been vaccinated? Would you explain to them that this is a good thing, not a bad thing?
If I have family and friends who have not been vaccinated, I'll tell you one thing. We're only meeting outdoors. We're not meeting indoors. And if we do meet indoors, it's going to be a few, and you're going to wear your mask because it's not fair to people who have been vaccinated to be exposed to the virus because of your decision.
Right.
And so to make it fair, it's like, well, okay, if you choose not to be vaccinated, and it is your choice because it's your health and your body, then you have to take precautions to protect me.
And people aren't thinking like that. They're thinking about themselves. They're not thinking about you. That's why they're out there doing it, not being vaccinated and pushing back and not doing it. I know most young people are thinking that way. And when it comes to the schools, they're trying to say, put it into the little children too. So I think it's a good thing, but I don't have to worry about that because I don't have little kids in school. So I'm just covering myself at this point, and I will wear my mask to be sure that I protect others, because I do have that kind of consideration. That's the kind of person I am. So,
I tell you what's troublesome, Dr. Mike, is the idea that there might be a requirement for the booster shot. So those who are fully vaccinated, now they're saying, okay, so now data is coming in, and even though you are fully vaccinated, there have been many cases where a person still got COVID-19. Mm-hmm. And so now they're suggesting you might need a booster shot. I'm not down with it.
Wow. What's the world coming to, Dr. Darlene? What's the world coming to? Just protect you and yours. You protect me and yours, and I think we'll be okay. So let's shift gears. Let's shift gears for a second. Wait a minute. What I like to do, let's talk about race and relationships, Dr. Dar. Are you aware that Willow Smith, she's an American singer, a songwriter, a rapper, a record producer, actress, dancer, and she's the daughter of Will and Jada Smith. Recently, Willow revealed on an episode of Red Table Talk that she is polyamorous. Now, for those that are listening, and I'm hoping that we have a wide range of audience, they might not know what polyamorous means. But polyamory is the practice or desire for intimate relationships with more than one partner with informed consent of all parties involved. Can you imagine that?
No, I can't imagine that. It sounds like no one wants to make a commitment. They want all the benefits of being sexual and being connected to another person without any commitment. I don't know how you can be committed to, like, several people. That's why I say I don't think there's a commitment.
Right.
It's hard enough to be committed to one person.
Right. You know what's interesting? Her grandmother on that show, when Willow asked her grandmother about that and mentioned it to her, and she said the same thing you said. I can't imagine that. What the hell are you talking about? And Willow said, well, I don't know what to tell you. The question I have for you, though, Dr. Darlene, do you think this is a generational issue? Because back in our day, you're much younger than I am, but I would think that back then we wouldn't consider doing nothing like that. And if you did, you would be looked down on. It wouldn't be a good look. But I guess the question is, has this been going on forever?
I like what you said earlier. The question that you asked was, what's the world coming to? You said, what's the world coming to? Well, it's coming to sin and blackness. There's no morality. Godliness is far and few. And so whatever you feel like is whatever goes. And then people who have principles, and especially Christian principles, then they make you feel like you're antiquated or you're not accommodating, you're discriminatory, for looking at this kind of stuff as it's perverse. Mm-hmm. Because we weren't intended to be matched with several individuals all at one time. There's this term people are talking about called non-binary. I was like, what is that?
Right.
That's people who don't identify as being female or male.
Right.
And I was like, so how do we deal with this? How do we coexist? You're not a male nor female. What are you?
What are you? Like, wow, that's
non-binary. So it's all of this. We have to adjust. All this adjustments that we're making, where it's like anything goes. If there's no standard, guess what's going to happen? Everything's going to be substandard. Everything's going to be base because there's no standard.
Right, right, absolutely. So I think it is possibly a generational issue, but listen to this. So I did a little bit of research, Dr. Dar. You know, that's in our nature, right? And on Reddit, I think it's called Reddit.com, right? You know what? I keep going to light this cigar, and that if Cynthia smelled me burning this cigar in the house, you know, she's going to kill me. I'm going to light it, though. I can do what I want to do, right? But anyway.
Open the window.
But Dr. Dar, guess what? I don't smoke. I think that's the funny part.
Oh, it's the image.
We just got to have fun here, right? Because this is a real serious. This is a very serious subject. You know, they say that poly relationships can last as long as any other relationships, right? However, you might notice that plenty of monogamous relationships don't last as long. I mean, this is what I researched and came up with, and I don't know anybody that's in these type of relationships personally, so it's kind of interesting to hear that people really enjoy being in these poly relationships, and they last a long time because everybody says, okay, go ahead, tonight is you, tomorrow is him. You know, it's like, to me, it's a moral issue, and it's really interesting.
Yeah, I think it is a moral issue, and I know, you know, people have their individual choices and what they deem, and I can see why or how some of those relationships would last longer than a monogamous relationship, because you don't have to deal with one person day in and day out, you know, and work through issues, which shows commitment, you know, and fortitude. You can live frivolously, carefree, dating whomever, they get on your nerves, you move to the next. I mean, what kind of character do you need to do that? You don't need character to do that. You need character to stick to a marriage and be committed and work things out. You need that.
Right, absolutely. Wow, non-monogamous relationships is just like polyamorous, right? Isn't that the same thing? Because, you know, with the non-monogamous, which means having more than one partner or having one partner but having sex with other people, wide open. People understand that. It's like, okay, non-monogamous relationships, what do you say, the polymorous relationships, you know, and then the other question I have is this across racial lines, because, you know, we talk about racial relationships on this show. And I guess, let me be careful how I say this, because my question is this a black thing? Or is this a white thing? Is this a rich thing? Because remember, Willow Smith is a millionaire. So is that, can you help me with that, Dr. Dar? Do you think it's how do you break that down?
Yeah, I don't think it's, it could be, but I don't think it's all an economic issue or ethnic one. I think it's people who are like-minded who want to do it. It's no different than swingers, the swingers club. That has been around a long time. Black, white, Latino, Chinese, Japanese, you know, Korean. People have been doing this for a long time. I heard of a situation close where I live, and it's all, and I have a friend who attended, and they say it's all kinds of people in there. So I don't think it's a black or white issue. I don't think necessarily that it's an economic issue. I think you have to be probably within a certain circle where they invite you into these clubs to do these things, you know. But I think it's just people who want to do these things, and they're all like-minded.
You know, last question I ask you, because I know we're getting short on time here, and I really enjoy it. Every time we have a conversation, it's really great. And I don't know if we should save this for the next show or not, but I got to ask you this. A person that is pretty cool, she's pretty cool, man. She's pretty famous, very famous. And I won't call her name, but she said to me that she was talking to her girlfriend, right? And they were having a conversation. And she said, let me see how can I put it. She said that her girlfriend asked her, or said to her, she found out that her man that she has currently had a relationship with a man in the past. And when she found out that he was not gay today, but he was gay 10 years ago, she dropped him. She just could not handle it. She just fell apart. I find that pretty interesting. I guess what I'm saying is that she must have held that against him for what he did in the past, and maybe he didn't tell her. So that's kind of interesting. I don't know. We should hold that off to next time we speak, or what do you think about that?
You know, I think I would be with her. I was like, we had a relationship, and then I learned that you were with another guy. That's no, because I would think that those tendencies will still be there somewhere present in you.
Right.
You know, and it could revisit, and so I wouldn't trust that kind of relationship.
Right. Well, I guess she was right. I mean, she was telling me about it, and I was like, wow, I didn't know what to say. But can you forgive and forget? Can you forgive and let that be the past? And what if you did that in his college days? Whatever. But I guess she was just holding that near and dear to her heart. Maybe it's also a shock too. You come
Definitely shocking.
You come
and
home
you can forgive somebody, huh?
She come home. He's got her clothes on, her negligee.
Oh.
So, wow, that's interesting. But I'm always going to talk about race and relationships, and I'm always going to bring up color. I have to. That's because I'm a black person. So black men have struggled all of our lives. So, Dr. Darlene, I really appreciate this conversation with you. But I got one other question I want to ask you that kind of, it's almost like I shouldn't mention this, but I'm going to do it anyway, because and don't think that I'm anti. Don't you think I'm anti, okay? So what I'm thinking is that you see, I think President Biden did something relating to COVID-19 / Stop Asian Hate, right? He did something, he made some kind of law or something. I didn't get a chance to really review it. But aside from that, right now, there's a lot of talk about Asian hate. There's a lot of talk about changing the whole dynamic of why Asians are being beat up and things of that nature, which I think is terrible. You see them Asian people just randomly just getting beat up and stepped on and cut up or whatever they're doing. But here's my issue. My issue is, why don't we have that same urgency for black men, for black people, when we're getting beat up and stomped by the police, and we don't have that same urgency, or not we, but let's just say the news media or the world don't seem to have that same kind of urgency when it comes to us. And I'm not saying that they should not stop the Asian hate. What I'm disappointed in is the couple of videos I saw, it was a black man that walked up and punched the Asian woman in the face. I'm like, come on, brother, what the hell? You know, come on, well, why? Okay, but I just had to get that off my heart. I think that Asian hate should stop. I really believe that. I think black men being killed by police should stop. There's a whole lot of things that should stop, but I just had to get that off my heart. So if you have a comment on that, Dr. Dar?
I do, and I'm like you. It's like, okay, so we all disagree that nobody should be discriminated against because of their ethnicity. But we've been in this country a long time, and black men particularly and black women have been discriminated, beaten, slapped, killed, shot, brutalized, hung. So what's on the books for us?
Mm-hmm.
And what I think when I think about how responsive the government has been toward the Asian community is the fact that the public has been desensitized concerning blacks. They have been, because blacks have been dehumanized for so long that when you see a black man being arrested, you say, oh, guilty, automatic. He must have done something. He's probably, not educated, from the wrong side of the tracks. He has to prove his innocence. Whereas we, as a public, automatically assume every Asian person that was beaten, stabbed, hit over the head was innocent.
Right.
They are presumed innocent. It's a disgrace because black people, the community has not received their just due in America. Just have not. And continue. Even in the news now, the man named Green, right?
Right.
There's a fellow named Green. The police lied. Now, all police officers are bad. Thank God for the police. We have great police here in my community. They said that man suffered the injuries because he was in an accident. They did not say that he dragged him out of the car, beat him, senseless, tased him several times. So there's this big lie. And so we just, as a community of people, public, accept, oh, yeah, this is what happened to him. No investigation. Okay, so now what? 2 years later, we find out what really happened.
Right.
Because black people have been dehumanized. The public has been insensitized or not sensitive to the plight of black people because we have been saying it for hundreds of years that we're not treated fairly. The justice system is unjust when it comes to us. And we're targets.
Mm-hmm. And it goes on and on and on.
And on, yeah. And
wow.
it's just not right. And I'm not sure. It's like, how do we correct this?
I don't know.
How do we correct it?
Well, I don't know how we correct it, but one thing I do know, you just got to keep praying on it. Just got to keep believing in God. You know what I mean? And
you lighting it up now, huh?
Yeah,
Got a Cuban cigar.
It's a Cuban. You know, and one of speaking of Cuban, I have a friend of mine who worked at Boeing, and him and I talk a lot, and he actually introduced me to some high-profile politicians in Delaware, Senator Carper, Coons, all those guys. I mean, this guy knows them. And he sent me something that said he was talking about Liz Cheney. And my response was very simple. And we're going to close on this. Liz Cheney knows how it feels to be black in America. Speaking up for what you believe and lose your job, she knows how it feels to be black in America. Ain't that something? Well,
that is something.
Dr. Dawes, thank you so much. That's all I have, ladies and gentlemen. I'm looking forward to our next one.
All right, me too, Dr. Mike. Peace.
You got it.